There are some mysteries that stay small, too small for the mainstream. A cassette passed hand to hand, a voice nobody can trace. And yet, behind that sound, there's a story. This is the story of Rotate The Completor, a musician, or perhaps something entirely different, who appeared one day on the street and then vanished into tape hiss and myth. I'm Dylan Dolby, and in this episode we investigate the mystery of Rotate The Completor. It's December 2008. A man, or possibly not a man, appears with a guitar and a cardboard sign that reads simply, Rotate the Completor. Witnesses remember him. His songs made no sense, and yet people couldn't stop listening. Then he disappeared. For months there was nothing, until one September morning in 2009, when something strange began to circulate amongst outsider music fans. A cassette, homemade and hand-labelled, the title, Rotate the Completor's Completed Rotations of the... And it sounded like this. That was then, and now it's 2025. But this is one mystery that just has to be solved. I was not going to let this be my Loch Ness Monster, my Roswell, my Area 51, my Epstein files. This was something I was going to devote my life and soul to for a small period of time. So I emailed James, the owner of Rotaria Records, who had released Rotate the Completor on vinyl. He sent me back a message.
So I first discovered Rotate the Completor through an email that was sent to the Outsider Music list on Yahoo Groups, back when Yahoo Groups was still a thing. There was an email sent to the list on November 21st, 2009, and I'm just going to go ahead and read what was sent. Hello, I am new to the site and outsider music in general, but I'd like to share with you some information about a local musician that could only fit into this genre. Here is a copy of a letter I've been sending to various people, and for the most part getting ignored, as part of my efforts to get some exposure for my new hero, and so that other people outside of the select few who have heard his brilliance firsthand can get enjoyment from it too. Thanks. Hope my words interest you. Before I begin, I'll give you some background information. My name is Stan Ingham, and I am a resident of Tauranga, a city located in New Zealand. Not much happens in Tauranga, as, like in Florida, for example, it mostly serves as a pretty, artificial city for which the elderly can retire, play bridge for a while, and then die. The idea of anything happening here of musical importance is absurd, because despite the occasional metal or covers band playing loudly and badly in some yob bar on a Saturday evening, this is an artistic wasteland bereft of any talent, energy, and creativity. What little talent that may have been here has moved away long ago to larger and more prosperous cities due to the combined lack of respect and outlets for their personal expression. The rest were so stricken with apathy, they either cease playing, like myself, or join the hordes of cover bands selling their credibility for a spot as the proverbial wedding reception jukebox. So the recent developments of which I am about to share have come both as quite a shock and a definite pleasure, and for my mind are in desperate need of being shown to a far wider, more understanding audience than the ignorant local population. So I have made it my mission to bring some exposure to the man who calls himself Rotate the Completor. During our summer last year, I found myself in one of the back streets of our city center, due to being unable to find a car park anywhere else, thanks to the masses of people like myself doing their Christmas shopping at the last minute. As I was feeding enough coins to create a small deposit on what could be my first house into a hungry parking meter, I noticed a busker about 50 meters down the road. I found this rather odd because besides the occasional business person heading down those ways to catch a taxi or someone trying to locate their dignity from the previous weekend's night clubbing antics, there was very little foot traffic. Certainly not enough to warrant busking. What made it more bizarre was that the main drag was only 2 to 3 minutes walking distance away. And what with the spirit of Christmas in the air, generosity for buskers would be at record highs. Curious, I decided to walk by for a closer look. The busker was a rather strange-looking guy, mid to late 20s, I'd say, yet quite boyish if one could see past the scraggly beard framing his face, kitted out in an odd selection of oversized, well-aged clothing, like you would see on a child playing dress-up in his father's clothes. Now, much to my surprise, this guy was not playing the standard, crowd-pleasing set list of top 20 hits, but was instead belting out some of the weirdest, original, tuneless, repelling to the average person, inspired music I've ever heard. I still find it hard to describe exactly what kind of music it is that Rotate the Completor plays, so until you can actually listen to it, just imagine a deranged children's entertainer playing a mix of blues, jazz, bluegrass, rock and roll, folk, and carnival music, all somehow blended together, and sung for the most part in silly voices to disguise how atonal he is. A friend of mine, upon listening to RTC for the first time, dubbed what he heard quite wryly and very aptly as savant-garde. Now, this guy is going full tilt, playing as loud as his unamplified acoustic will let him, dancing like he has a very troubling parasitic infection, and forming his words with an impressive array of facial expressions, the likes of which are usually reserved for rubber-faced comedians and or people who have never had children trying to be silly around the offspring of other people who have had children, lest they be seen as being unable to communicate with those younger than themselves due to never having had children like those that have. Now, what gets and hooks me is the fact that the other, probably lost people that do walk past are ignoring our hero, and if anything, treating him like a leper, giving him an incredibly wide berth, far more than what the usual accepted sidestepping rule when encountering and trying to avoid buskers permits. Some have even crossed the road, only to recross moments later once they have gotten past this noisy obstacle. All the while, RTC is completely oblivious, totally absorbed in playing his little ditties and having a grand old time doing so. Astounded by his genius and everyone else's ignorance, I watched and waited to see what would happen next. After watching him play 4 to 5 more similarly mental songs, I took out my wallet and emptied all the coinage I had onto his, at this point empty, busking hanky, and started to return to my previous viewing position. Now, the idea behind this was that hopefully with a little validation it would spur him on to keep playing. But no, much to my amusement, midway through the song he was playing, he stopped, leaned down, scooped up his hanky, slung his guitar over his shoulder, and without as much as even a glance in my direction, crossed the road and entered the fruit and veggie store opposite from where we stood, leaving me alone scratching my head in wonder. After making sense of what just happened, I followed, eventually catching up with him in front of a stall of sweet potatoes, weighing them up in his hands and squeezing them like one would do if they were trying to discern whether a peach or avocado was ripe enough to eat. Bemused, I looked on while he made his choice, and then attempted to start a conversation, which was no easy feat. When I first went up alongside him and said hello, he swung around, guitar almost decapitating me, and strode off heading at a fierce pace towards the counter. When I finally caught up to him this time, I tapped him on the shoulder to give fair warning, at which point he turned, looked at me with his priceless possum caught in the headlights expression, and gave me a slow, drawled, suspicious yes. I explained that I had just been watching him while he busked and thought that it was very good, but before I could continue with all the platitudes and questions I had wanted to get out, the guitar was again heading for my head, while a thank you was also roughly aimed in that direction. Now, I should say here that I'm not usually the kind of guy that follows others about like a needy, affection-starved animal, but to hear something musically from my generation that isn't just an insipid reinterpretation of the last decade's music, and to hear it on the streets of Tauranga was, no less, was excuse enough for me to forego my usual insouciance to take on the role of gushing fan number one, so that I could at the very least find out who this enigma was. So I cut him off at the counter and started asking the questions for which I wanted and needed the answers to. Brilliantly, at first he tried pretending that he couldn't see me, until it became glaringly obvious that I could only be talking to him, as there was no one else in or near the vicinity of the line for service. When he did finally look at me with his startled possum expression, affixed like he'd only just realized I'd been standing in front of him the entire time, he gave me his slow, drawled, suspicious, yes, response once more. So I repeated myself for him, but by the time I'd gotten through my spiel about how great it was to hear something original in Tauranga, and how great he was, etc., and asked my first question, I'd lost his attention. He was off in his own little world, getting and understanding the message that either through misanthropy, insanity, shyness, or being the human incarnate of the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, he couldn't or didn't want to converse. I grabbed a pen and wrote my contact details on the back of my receipt on the off chance that one day he might like to jam or hang out or whatever. And I handed it to him, which was met with a response you can probably already guess for yourself. After that, I left my new friend to his own devices, only seeing him again briefly as I was returning from my shopping, sitting alone on a park bench, eating his sweet potato like an apple. In hysterics, I rushed home and told everyone I could, to little or no interest, about my odd encounter with this strange little man, who, despite my best efforts, I knew zilch about and sadly never expected to see or hear from ever again. So imagine my surprise when about 3 months ago, a package arrived for me with the sender listed as a Rotate The Completor. I'm not sure if it is the same where you come from, but over here RTC isn't exactly a common name. So after checking for any ticking sounds coming from within, I cautiously opened the envelope to reveal the contents. One audio cassette with an odd little photocopied drawing for a front cover entitled Rotate The Completors, completed rotations of the ... and with some typewritten directions for usage on the back. Truth be told, I had nearly forgotten about my encounter of the previous year, as I had neither seen nor heard from the little busker since. It was only when I turned the tape on and heard the manic combination of talent, no talent, originality, insanity that I realized just what it was that I had been sent, and quickly turned off the tape and paid more attention to the package it came in. I'll go into detail about the front cover after I have discussed the music itself, but before I can even do that, I must explain the rules for listening to Rotate The Completors, completed rotations of the ... Set in typewritten font were 4 rules. 1. Listen alone. 2. Listen with headphones on. 3. Listen only at night. 4. Only permissible foods to be eaten while listening to RTC's CR of the ... Cruciferous vegetables, members of the allium genus. I can't really explain the reason for these, except maybe they are designed to enhance the listening pleasure, or was this how the album was conceived, and RTC wants everyone to hear his music how he hears it? And in fact, I think I'd rather not know, as this just adds to the mystery. Sadly, I could not wait for night to fall, and that I regret, as it definitely would have enhanced the pleasure of that first listen, if that was his intention. but I did adhere to the other provisos by grabbing my old Walkman, a plate of cabbage, and tucking myself away in the darkest place I could find in my house. Now, I thought what I heard on the street the previous year was bizarre, but this completely blew that and me away. There are 11 songs in total, none of which are named. All are listed with their number and then an ellipsis, for example, 1, or 5, All songs are recorded on what could only be a dictaphone as the sound quality is so poor. Not that it really matters, as it probably adds and sticks with the rough around the edges charm consistent of the other RTC attributes. All the songs, bar the very last, 11, are played on an electric guitar with some form of effects laden over top. Most of the songs also have drum accompaniment. Not from a highly skilled drummer overdubbing, mind you, but just RTC, mostly out of time, using a kick drum and hi-hat and maybe something else at the same time, as he badly warbles and plays his guitar. At least that's my belief, as no one else could possibly keep up with the odd changes in time and structure the songs constantly go under, and nor could most musicians play in such a stripped-back, childish manner. I won't be overly descriptive on the music, as it is best to hear it for yourself without preparation the first time in case it lessens the initial shock. However, to up the intrigue factor on your part, I will leave you with these tasty morsels of information. The music is still an indefinable chaotic mess of clashing styles, but now with the added bonus of lo-fi technical wizardry, the songs take on a more sinister tone in parts. Song number 1 starts as a normal song would, well, as normal as any RT song starts, only to stop completely, start again, but this time with the tape sped up, only to stop again, at which point another copy of the same song starts playing over the first rendition, but half a second behind, only to stop again after your head feels like it's about to explode from a combination of dizziness, confusion, and amusement. Some songs are jarringly short, while some tend to ramble as if they are searching for the point they are trying to make, yet never wind up finding it. All the songs have the ability to evoke a wide range of emotions, some of which I have never felt while listening to music, or from living in general, such as the gut-churning feeling of being simultaneously elated, confused, and disgusted. From what I can hear and decipher, seem to be a mix of metaphors, tales about personified, usually inanimate objects, or animals, such as cabbages and mice, and heartfelt mantras like the last song, which is basically 5 minutes of repeating the refrain, "I am not insane." Which brings me to the album cover. Now, I can only presume that this childlike drawing is a montage of all the characters contained within the songs, as the big puffy white cloud thing in the top left must be the dog in the sky mentioned in track 5, and cabbage and cantaloupe in the central area from track 1. I had been hoping to send a copy of this to you so you could see it for yourself, but unfortunately there is no way that I can see how to attach it. And best of all, something I only just discovered last month is that if one leaves the album to run out, then the entire thing is played in reverse at the end of each side. Hopefully I have piqued your interest on this because my efforts to spread the good word of RTC here have been met with a typically muted response, and I am in desperate need of some help in doing so. And as my friend kindly told me, you would be one of the best people to contact, as music like this is your specialty, and therefore, hopefully, you will get as much enjoyment out of this as I have, and will also spread the word to other like-minded and interested souls. I should make clear that I am not trying to become the next Malcolm McLaren, nor am I dreaming about world domination for RTC. I just like to see others get the same enjoyment out of this music that I have, and that he gets some of the recognition he deserves so that he continues to make more of his warped genius music. Not that I think he really cares or needs the validation, because since receiving his tape, I have been steadily writing to the return of sender address from the back of his parcel with words of thanks, encouragement, questions, my intentions, and everything that I tried saying that day back in the fruit and veggie market, but so far to absolutely no response. Maybe he just isn't taking me seriously, as I'm just a resident of Toringa. I have no musical credentials, and he sees me as a potential stalker that should not be too greatly encouraged. Now, obviously, you cannot make your own deductions on the questionable genius of Rotate the Completor without first hearing him, as I could be massively delusional due to being starved for good local or contemporary music. But therein lies the problem. All my attempts to create duplicates of his album have thus far been met with resistance due to the sound quality, or lack thereof, and it seems to be somewhat dishonorable to copy his album without the permission I have asked for in my unanswered entreaties anyway. But what I can suggest, and this I can vouch for, is what one of the few people I have shown this to who have appreciated it has done and succeeded. My friend wrote to RTC requesting a copy of his album, but did so in a way that he'd be obligated to do so by sending a blank audio tape with a stamped, self-addressed envelope big enough to carry a cassette, after which a couple of weeks waiting he received, along with the photocopied cover and typewritten annotations that I had. If you wish to do this, and I hope I have been convincing enough that you will do so, then send your stamped, self-addressed envelope with, I suggest, a 90-minute blank tape, if you want the reverse of the album as well, to Rotate the Completor, P.O. Box 2000, Toringa, New Zealand. And if you choose to do so and receive your copy, please email me and tell me that I am not imagining things and seeing what I want to see and that you too enjoy it. And if you do, then please pass this message on or tell as many other like-minded souls as you can, because with enough numbers we may even be able to convince RTC to come out from wherever he is hiding and start playing live, or at least explain some of the more troubling aspects of his music. Thank you very much for taking the time and effort to read this, and I look forward to hearing from you. Regards, Stan Ingham.
So I finally had a lead, Stan Ingham. I researched and found 3 possibilities. Stan Ingham, the makeup artist and contact lens technician for the Dead Rising movies. Stan Ingham, a member of the Harry Potter fandom wiki. But none of them could be contacted. The third, a trail of obituaries for every person named Stan Ingham. The lead was dead, but then I found something else. So I booked the first plane I could to Tauranga. Tauranga's CBD has ghosts. One of them was Tracks, the last record store in a town to draw its last dying breath in a world of streaming music. The owner, a man with a genuine love of music and a nostalgia for the past, gave me a key and said, "You're welcome to the boxes, just don't wake the rotations." In his climate-controlled storage unit, I found stacks of logbooks, sales, trades, names written in light blue ink. Then I found it. Page 142, sold, Rotate the Completor's completed rotations of the, to Elias Marrow, cash, 16th of November 2009. A quick internet dive, a handful of public records, an old forum post, a wedding announcement, and Elias Marrow had an email address. And he emailed me back with a series of numbers: 1116 2025, 1300, negative 37.67463, and 176.17144. At first it didn't make any sense. Then I understood what he was saying. It was a time and a place to meet. It was the 16th of November at 1 o'clock, and the rest was GPS coordinates pointing to straight underneath the Tauranga Harbour Bridge. Finally, could the mystery be revealed? Does this person know the identity of Rotate the Completor? All right, I'm here under the Tauranga Harbour Bridge where I'm meeting Elias Marrow. And hey, Elias. Hey,
yeah, hi.
Hey, how did you get this album?
Well, I had a neighbour, and I used to go over every Sunday afternoon, and we'd sort of talk about cats and play his records. And so it was pretty cool. He was about 90 odd, but there was always this one record that he'd never play me.
Okay.
And I would see it there, sitting in front of me, and I'd ask him about it, and he'd just change the subject and play another record. Anyway, a few weeks later, I think he died. So I broke into his house the next day, and I looked for this record, but fuck me, it had gone.
Gone?
Yeah, it had gone. There was like no neighbour, and this one particular record I wanted
Was gone.
was gone.
The record.
The record. Now I knew what the cover was.
Yeah.
I could see the cover.
Yeah.
Every Sunday for weeks on end I'd seen this cover. So I made it a mission to go and try and find it. I scoured all the record stores, and one day I was in this record store called Tracks.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was there. It was
Tracks.
there, mate. And I was just like, whoa, hallelujah, it was there.
And have you ever met Rotate the Completor?
Oh, I don't think you want to go there, mate.
Why not?
That's all I got to say.
Rotate the Completor would go on to release a handful of projects, all equally confusing. RTCEP in 2012, a second LP in 2013, The Completed Rotations, a rumoured third album sent only on a CDR, and a 2014 EP, Symphony Number 8069, which has since become lost media. The last one was described as a celebration of pure noise electronics and also demented lo-fi rugger. No one's quite sure what that means, and maybe that's the point. Then silence. Rotate the Completor vanished again. In 2024, something stirred. A fan named Timex reached out, hoping for an interview. Rotate the Completor declined. Instead, it sent back 2 CDs, album and EP2. an edited self-portrait featuring Time Eggs, her friend McKidd, and her cat, and along with it, a parody letter. The music was uploaded to YouTube until Rotate The Completor, now using the alias Rotate The Completor, sent a cease and desist email. It looked like my mission to solve the mystery of who was Rotate The Completor was coming to an end. I discovered a few more bits and pieces. Apparently, they had travelled to Europe with a short stop in Ibiza. Then I discovered a lone Reddit thread under Where Is This, in which someone was trying to find the geographic location of this artist based on the album cover. Now, based on the artwork, fans worked busily on Google Earth and finally concluded that Rotate The Completor was, in fact, as we know, based in Tauranga, New Zealand. But beyond that, nothing. Except this one single comment, a possible lead that could break the mystery. A comment by Soaking Wet Guy, who posted a comment, "Have you tried contacting this guy who seemed to know him?" A link. Now this link turned out to be an outsider artist based in the bottom of the South Island, Quint Baker. When I discovered this, I didn't know whether to be sad or to be angry. I've never met Quint in the flesh, but I've been in constant communication with him for probably the last 15 years. In the last 5 or 6 years, I haven't talked to him that much. He goes through periods of months and months and months without contacting me. He goes deep into his art and cuts himself off from the outside world. So I sent him an email and asked him, was it true what Reddit said, that he knows who Rotate The Completor is? Then, as I was eating lunch the next day, my phone rang, a private number. I ignored it. The biggest regret of my life. It was a message from Quint.
Voicemail service. You have 2 new voice messages and 16 saved voice messages. First new voice message received on Sunday, November 23rd at 4:28 p.m.
Hi, darling, it's Mum.
Oh.
Sorry, I had the phone on mute.
Oh, Mum.
Okay, bring me back. Thank you.
Message saved. Next new voice message received today at 12:34 p.m.
But you let me to disappear, 2 diseased alphabets, cardboard carton, 2 partitions, 1 with you, creativity carton, 1 demagnetized head, own, 1, nothing, next ancient, we are the sign, to disappear, F5 container, research, dash, to own folds, but you with watery F5 eyes, dash own fields, ancient squizzles, blow your nose on the mouse rag, and mouse ancient pad. 1 own, ancient F5, but you with creativity in your eyes, F10 nihilism, demorph you into iron, let go, let's watery blow pad, metamorphose music and film with blow wave, poetry out and beyond the let it encapsulate us, own slush, and remorphous, ooning, mooning, unconstructed weather shield 1616, unancient and reborn, more slush at will, disturb particles, creation slush, a poetic medicine.
It seems that the mystery of Rotate the Completor was not going to be solved by me. Sometimes in life, the most powerful truths are the ones we don't fully understand. There is a quiet magic woven into the things we can't quite name, the paths we haven't fully mapped, the questions that refuse to settle into tidy answers. Mystery isn't a flaw in the world, it's part of its design. It gives us room to wonder, to imagine, to grow into the kind of people who can hold uncertainty without breaking. When everything is known, life becomes a checklist, predictable, contained, but the unknown, that is where possibility breathes. Mystery invites curiosity, and curiosity pulls us forward when certainty would have kept us still. When a door hasn't been opened yet, anything might be on the other side. When an ending isn't written, a better one can still unfold. Mystery projects our imagination, nurtures our courage, and reminds us that the world is bigger than our understanding. Because sometimes the unknown is not an absence, it's an invitation. And within that mystery, life still has room to surprise you. In a world obsessed with clarity, Rotate the Completor reminds us of the beauty of confusion, the charm of something unpolished, unexplainable, and utterly human. If you want to find Rotate the Completor, you probably won't. But if you listen closely, late at night, headphones on, cruciferous vegetables nearby, you might just hear the sound of something rotating, completing, in the dark. I'm Dylan Dolby, and thanks for listening. And remember, sometimes the best art doesn't want to be found.